Welcome to Co-op Radio 102.7 FM, CFRO. This is Monday Brown Bagger. The date is August 17th, 2009. My name is Reginald Angus Argue. For our guest today is a former United States Senator from 69 to 81. He's also a U.S. veteran, serving from 51 to 54. He also served in the Alaskan House of Representatives from 63 to 66 and as Speaker from 65 to 66. In 2008, our guest ran as a candidate within the Democratic Party presidential primaries. In addition, he's an author of novels called Jobs and More Jobs and Citizen Power. And the list goes on and on. But with this said, I'd like to introduce our guest today and say bonjour, comment ça va to Senator Mike Gravel.
Un plaisir d'être avec vous.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Senator. You are one of the politicians that I'd have to say that you believe in the people. The people are the employer. The politicians are the employee of the people.
No question about that. But, of course, the structure of representative government doesn't work that out very well. And that's the reason why I've been an advocate for many, many years, to empower the people so they become lawmakers. You know, Cicero, 2,000 years, said that participation in power is the definition of freedom. Well, in representative government, or what we call democracies, the central power is lawmaking. So until the people can participate in their own governance by being able to make laws directly, they will never really be free.
And the United States government at this time is running a $1.8 trillion deficit in this fiscal year alone. I've heard that there's countries that are no longer going to buy the Treasury bills, which help support this massive debt. And the Federal Reserve is printing massive amount of money, larger and larger, it seems like every day. What are your thoughts, Senator, on when the books are finally open to the people and they finally see how deep in debt the United States is, how close do you feel that the United States is declaring bankruptcy, and how do you feel, in your opinion, that this situation has to be corrected?
Well, first off, I doubt that the books will be opened, and two, I doubt that the country will declare bankruptcy. We've been bankrupt for a long time. We can keep printing money. That is how an empire ends. It ends because it begins to corrupt its money. Its profligacy just implodes its efforts. Here we continue with our military-industrial complex, which sustains our whole attitude of imperialism when we can't afford it. It's ridiculous that we spend more on defense than all the rest of the world put together, and there is no real threat to our survival. We go around the world and we make our enemies. We initiate wars of choice. This is what happened to the British Empire. This is what happened to the Dutch Empire and the Spanish Empire, and they all failed. And we are failing right now. We refuse to even understand it or accept it, because we're stuck into American triumphalism. We think we're so much smarter than anybody else, and we're not. We're not any better than anybody else, and with our hubris, we are just on a path of self-destruct.
On your website, Senator, you talk about how South Korea at this time is going to try that direct democracy that you're talking about. Could you quickly talk about, very briefly, about the direct democracy and how it's going to help South Korea, and this could help the rest of the world if it works over there?
Well, first off, I don't know if South Korea is going to do this. What I've done is I went over there last April, and there are a number of people who are very interested in helping me to create an educational movement so that people in South Korea can become aware of what is the national initiative. Now, the national initiative, and I've rewritten it to comport to the Constitution of South Korea, which is a constitution that is considerably more democratic than the American Constitution. And so this legislation, which I've rewritten for South Korea, and for me it's a gift to them. And so a group of South Koreans will present this to the Korean constituency of all the people, and they will be able to vote on it at some point when we can create this educational movement informing Koreans that this opportunity for them to govern themselves is at hand. All they have to do is vote for it. And so this educational movement, when we can inform enough Koreans and they want it, they protest very actively. And so when they vote for it, it will mean that the Koreans will be able to make laws in a normal fashion. They'll have the way the structure of government there is now. You have a unicameral system. It's a national assembly and a president, and they have an independent judiciary. And so now they would have a citizens' assembly, and they would have a citizens' trust, which would whose task would be to implement the procedures, the legislative procedures, on behalf of the citizens of South Korea. And then they would then be able to make laws in a normal fashion, independent of representative government. Now, this format succeeding in South Korea would mean that the rest of the people could look at this, like in Canada, the United States, and Europe, and say, hey, this model works in any viable democracy in the world. So maybe we want to employ this in our own country, and it would be easy to then employ it in their own country. I would then hope that the Canadians would undertake a national initiative. I know that in France there's some interest, in Italy there's some interest, and there's interest in the United States. We continue to, our main organization is here, but it would take 60 million votes to bring this about. It would take considerably less votes in Canada to bring this about. And but I made several speeches in Canada, and and these speeches were out west, and it never really picked up. I detected a deference to authority in Canada that was very, very surprising. That was not the case in Quebec, where my forebears come from. And so I was very surprised. So maybe I should concentrate on Canada in addition to South Korea. But that's where I'm devoting a good part of my resources, which is my personal time, because I don't have a great deal of wealth, on South Korea, because the people there protest. Now, I don't see much protest in Canada and being upset with the shortcomings of Canadian society. But by the same token, Canada is a very unusual and I think a very progressive country from a generic point of view.